Just so you know, putting Windows on an otherwise perfectly good computer is kind of like bringing a spoon to a gunfight. But in the compassion of my heart, I've found it fit to arm you with knowledge and power. So pay close attention, because this is going to change your life. Let's just Google for install Ubuntu on Windows. See what we get. Oh, look at that. The Windows installer. Sounds like a good idea. I'm going to vote yes. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the Wooby installer, as it's called. The nice thing about it is that it's going to create a file on your hard drive that is the Ubuntu installation. So what this means is that you're not changing partitions on your computer. You're not doing anything complicated. It's extremely simple and safe and doesn't require any technical skill to do. The only modification that it's even doing to Windows is to allow it to boot to that file when you restart your computer. The reason this is better than some of the other solutions for beginners is that dual booting means that you need to partition your hard drive, and that can mean that you have to get rid of your recovery partition or run a check disk or take some additional step that isn't intuitively obvious to a beginner. Although installing Ubuntu from CD is very easy, it requires that you know how to burn an ISO, and the best way to do it is to wipe out Windows. Now, that's not always desirable because sometimes you don't have a Mac and you still need to run Photoshop. Okay, so now they're asking for a donation. What I want to point out is that you can go down to the bottom and you can select not now, take me to the download. And I think that's perfectly reasonable because you haven't even tried it out yet, right? However, I've been using it for many years, and I want to show you that I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is because I really like Ubuntu. I think the desktop experience is great, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'd also like to point out that a version of Microsoft costs a couple $100. A version of Mac OS X costs $10 to $30. Those are costs per year or per upgrade. So a donation of $5 to $20 is not at all unreasonable. Now you can see Wooby is downloading. That'll be done in just a second. Now, although I can open up Wooby and run it, and the installer will download the Ubuntu automatically, I would like to select it for myself. So I'm going to click on Desktop, and I want the 64-bit version. And I'm going to go ahead and go with Ubuntu 12.10. Now, normally, when I'm doing screencasts, or I'm writing tutorials, or I'm doing development, I like to use the long-term support edition of Ubuntu. However, I think that as a desktop, using the latest version of Ubuntu is going to be a better experience. So that's why I'm going to go with that. And since I've already donated, I don't need to do that again. And voila, now the desktop is downloading. Now that the download is finished, I'm going to open up my downloads folder, and there's the Wooby installer, and there's the Ubuntu installation package, or the CD image. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up Wooby. Yes, I'm sure. And because I've downloaded the one that I want to use, it's going to use that instead of whatever it would have used by default. Wooby can find the CD image to install as long as it's in the same folder. A good installation size, you don't really need more than probably about 8 gigabytes just to get the bare essentials done. And that's what I'm going to use in this tutorial. However, if you have a lot of music or things that you believe that you'll be importing into Ubuntu that are large, maybe videos, whatever, pictures, I would say go ahead and make the size larger. And if you start to use Ubuntu a lot, then you already have the space. And if you find that it's not your thing, you can just delete it. Okay, gonna set a password. And click install. Now you can see it already has the files downloaded that it needs. So it's checking the installation file, and then it will begin installing. Now, before I reboot, there's one more thing I want to do. First, let me exit out of these windows we're not using. I'm going to go into the control panel and search for, I'm going to search for environment variables. Here we go. I'm going to click on Edit System Environment Variables. And under Startup and Recovery, it asks which operating system do I want to use as the default. And I'm going to select Ubuntu because I don't plan on booting into Windows anymore. Now note that you have here a number of seconds it will allow you to choose. So this isn't saying don't boot into Windows. This is saying that I want to boot into Windows or Ubuntu by default. Either way, you'll want to change the number of seconds from 10 to something more like 3. Just be careful not to change it to 0, probably not even 1 second. This is the number of seconds for which it will show the menu allowing you to choose either Ubuntu or Windows when you boot up. Okay. And now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and give her the old reboot. As the computer reboots, it's not going to come back into what it normally does. Instead, it's going to finish the Ubuntu installation, which looks like this, but a lot slower. Probably takes about 15-20 minutes. Every time your computer starts, you'll see this menu, which will allow you to choose whether you want to use Ubuntu or Windows. Then it will continue to boot into Ubuntu. Now I'll put in my password. And it's going to boot to the desktop for the first time. It'll be a little bit slower than usual because it has to go through the process of creating the account and setting up the system. But here we are. From here, there's a few things you should know about. One is that if you open up your home folder and you go into File System, you will notice that there is a folder called Host. Now this folder is actually a shortcut to your Windows drive. Under Users and your username on the Windows side, you can find all of your files, such as your pictures, your downloads, the things that are on your desktop, your music, etc. These are separate from the ones on the Ubuntu side, such as these downloads, music, etc. I recommend creating a bookmark to this folder so you can easily access it later. You go up to the top here and the menu will appear. You see bookmarks, add bookmark. Now this, under my bookmarks, is my Windows folder. I'll give a more general introduction to Ubuntu later, but for right now I'll just show you how to restart and uninstall it in case you want to do that. So it's over here, this gear icon, and then restart. Restart. When the computer boots up, it'll come to this menu, and you need to hit the up arrow to select Windows 7 before the timer runs out, which we previously set to 3 seconds. Okay, now that we've booted back into Windows, if we want to uninstall Ubuntu, first thing is to go into the control panel and again search for environment variables. Click on Edit System Environment Variables again. Go back to Startup and Recovery and switch the default operating system back to Windows. Next, we'll search for uninstall and click on uninstall a program. Now you can see Ubuntu is in the list. You right click, select uninstall. Note that when you uninstall Ubuntu, any files that you've created on the Ubuntu side will be deleted and you won't be able to get access to them again. And it's as simple as that.